Hello everyone, my name is jennyb, and welcome to all of my new subscribers. And thank you to everyone who shares my videos and likes and comments. I'm going to ask if you could please do that if it isn't too much trouble. Just having a few YouTube issues. I know I heard Amanda spoke about it. I had messaged her, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, whenever the last video came out, and it had been out for a couple of days, and I saw the little analysis and I was like, what the heck? And so we both kind of were like about that kind of stuff, and it's nice to have somebody to share those things with. But anyway, that would help me out if you guys could do that. And yeah, so lots happening, so much happening. The good news is that today we have made it through the first half of the year. So congratulations, everyone. We've made it through. Maybe not the best news that you'd like to hear right now is that the first half of the year was a warm-up for the second half of the year and what follows that. And so we're just going to keep plodding along. I think that the image that Metatron had me share in the post that I put up on the community page the other day was a great analogy of that staircase, just seeing the sun and putting one foot in front of the other, as he's saying however much time that takes to climb that staircase. That everybody just really, we're focusing there. You know, there's nothing that we can do outside of us. And Jesus reminded me of the verse, greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. And of course, that's, you know, he's saying false translation, because it's really that the light in me is greater and the peace within me is more overpowering, is what Metatron is saying. Those things can't, you know, when our foundation is set, when our root chakra is open, when we're in that harmonious connection to the earth, which brings us into harmonious connection within, then what's happening out there we're not really so affected. So yeah, we're really focusing on that. And I want to spend a lot of time talking about Mars in Aries, and we'll talk about the eclipse too. Next video will be the solar return of the United States, because I usually share that at a conference that I attend in late July, which we're doing differently this year. I won't be speaking, or maybe I don't even know how much time I'll be at the conference, but I want to talk about that and the person in the position of leadership in this country, their solar return, and share that with you guys. And so then we'll talk about the eclipse. We'll get more into it. I mean, we're going to talk about it a little bit today, because it's important to mention some of the stuff about the eclipse and the United States. But we'll focus on the solar return of the United States and Trump's solar return chart. And I looked actually at his next solar return chart as well. So we'll take a look at those things in the next video. I'm pretty sure. Let's not beg on that, because I didn't ask, but that was what I was thinking of doing. So yeah, there's just so much to talk about. I want to just remind everyone that as Venus now, you know, finished her retrograde, and so it's June 25th, and she's beginning to move forward in Gemini, and she's answering to Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, as he is retrograde in Cancer. And so if you didn't get a big woohoo, that's why, because Venus is answering to a retrograde Mercury, and he's in the fields in Cancer. And so a lot of decisions right now are based in what we're feeling and maybe not critical thinking. So that's important to mention. I've had, a lot of stuff with technology, even out in stores that I've been in more than once. I've seen that going on. So, and it's funny because I printed the chart for the eclipse, and it's not saying that I'm out of ink. I might need a new printer, but the chart came out like pink and yellow and orange. And so I think that and it's the same color as the flowers. You can't make it up. So, yeah, we're no red, I noticed. It's pink. It's pink, the red. It kind of looks more red on camera, but it's definitely pink. It's a nice energy for the eclipse because the sun is on the fixed star Sirius, and the moon then opposing Sirius is on the fixed star Vega. So we're going to talk about those things. I want to address Mars because maybe we'll do the eclipse energy first. So I know I've heard other astrologers reminding people that the last cycle of this eclipse, the last time that the eclipse fell, where this one falls, was the eclipse before the event, 9/11. And then, of course, before that was the assassination of John Kennedy. And, I'm not going to go back through, but there have been significant events that have gone on in the United States. This eclipse happens on the 4th of July for the United States, our Independence Day. And so the chart, that's our sun, the natal chart of the United States, that it's on our sun. So, and the eclipse will pass over the Americas, North and South America, and Africa. It's what's called a penumbra eclipse. And so it won't really wow anybody. It's not going to have like such a huge effect. I think it's only like 35% of the moon is going to be blocked by the Earth's shadow because of that. And you can Google that if you want to look that up. You can just Google the eclipse for the 4th of July and you can see the path of it and how that works, what it means when we talk about penumbra. But I think that's good, especially because this moon, it was known as the thunder moon. And so I'm glad that it's not a full eclipse. I'm going to take that. I'll take every little bit I can get. Things are moving and shaking. And things are going to continue to be that way. A very volatile, hostile energy. I had started making this video and was kind of going in a different direction and didn't feel that was right. So now I'm wondering if I mention what Jesus said about greater is he that is in me than he that is in the world. Warren's mentioning again because, when we're at peace within ourselves and we're happy with what is happening in our life, in our little world, then what's going on out there just doesn't really matter. And I said, I don't know, a month or so ago, that the happiness, the gains of joy that we're going to get right now are going to be most likely, for the most part, in our own little worlds. What we have within. That's where joy comes from. That's where the strength comes from, the joy. And the fixed star Sirius is yellow in color, joy. It's a very nice energy, Sirius. And then opposing Sirius is Vega. The moon in Capricorn will be on Vega. The full moon is in Capricorn. And Vega is very pale blue color, sort of celestite color. And I look at Vega as the energy of Mother Mary. The ancients referred to her as the Queen Star, or the Queen of the Night. So it reminded me of her, Queen of Angels. And I always associate her with the celestite as well. So it is a nice energy. Of course, that moon is with Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto. I know they aren't close by, but when planets are all in the same signs, they're communicating. They're having a conversation. So the South Node has moved into Sagittarius, but now we're wrapping up. This is the final eclipse at the Capricorn Cancer axis, and the final for Saturn's journey that began in 2017 through Capricorn. And of course, Saturn wants us to reach our own ascended mastery, to be the higher self incarnated without the struggling with the shadow. I've noticed that there, of course, I mean, you guys might have noticed that there's a little bit of judgment going around. Judgment, we look at Jupiter and Capricorn in his fall, traveling with Pluto, who takes everything personally, really feels it and doesn't like it. And be careful with that, because in this energy, it's going to come right back. So, it doesn't matter if it's a political figure, if it's a group of people. Every time when Jesus said, judge not lest you be judged, the way that was interpreted was completely wrong. It's that when you make a judgment, you send that judgment to yourself. That's a dagger, boom, right into your own energy. Sometimes people comment on things on Facebook, and I can feel, not that they're even judging me, but I can feel that they've been judging a lot of people, because I can feel that in their space. And Pluto is about death and rebirth, and Jupiter expands and magnifies whatever he is closest to. And so when Jupiter and Pluto are traveling together now, and at their exact conjunctions, they're coming together at exact points. And today or yesterday was one of those. Yesterday, I think, was one of those. The days are kind of melding together for me. But I mean, we're still in that energy. These are big boys. And when that energy is together, then a lot of death is going to occur. I think we're at about 500,000 globally. And our Dr. Fauci said today that we should expect to see soon 100,000 people a day being diagnosed. I understand that in the rural areas, they didn't have cases. I mean, in my county, we were number one in the country. In Cook County, I'm part of the county where the city of Chicago is located. And so we were number one in the nation. But we're very careful too. I don't see anybody without a mask. It's not a you're stealing our freedom issue here, because a lot of people around here know people. I just found out today, one of his close friends' mothers, who's a nurse, was just diagnosed. Most of us know people or know somebody who knows somebody. And so it hasn't been an issue here. Even during the protests, people had masks on. So in the rural areas, there was 4 hours away from me, a woman who did like 140 clients' hair. She was a beautician. They had 140 people in the salon. No one got sick. Thank goodness. Because it hadn't gotten there. And just as it began to spread to the more rural areas, everything opened up. And he's bringing up the Pandora's box. Because in this chart, Mars is in the first degrees of Aries. This is for the full moon. Mars is in the beginning of Aries. Pandora is in the beginning of Leo. And America, the asteroid America, is retrograde in the beginning of Sagittarius. And that trine is just an easy flow of energy. That's going to happen. Nobody needs to do anything. That's a moving, energy. That's a flow, an easy flow of energy. So, we have that happening. And then, of course, the second wave, we'll talk about that as Mars goes through Aries. Will probably maybe occur for us around flu season. And so, this is really a time, Jesus was reminding me of the song that we sang in the church where I grew up. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, I will heal their land. Humble, not out yelling our points of views and opinions at other people. Humble. And, I don't know. Another thing that they mentioned this week was in reference to Uranus, who rules Aquarius and is about humanity and is sudden shock and awe and thunder and lightning and tornado. What does it take to unite us? What does it take? And so we will see how this plays out as the year goes on and next year goes on as well. All right. So how's that for an introduction? Okay, so the sun is on the fixed star Sirius. They're in Cancer, and about 14 Cancer, if you're wondering what degree that is. So anything you have around 14, very close to 14, would be aspecting the fixed star Sirius in some way. And Sirius is the dog star, and linked a lot with the Phoenix energy, with Isis. We see there's Mercury right there, retrograde, with Archangel Metatron's asteroid Heimdall, and then Vesta right there, which represents some sort of commitment, and Sphinx is also there. And Sphinx is about astral travel and things that go on in other timelines and other dimensions. And then, of course, the moon there in Capricorn at Vega. And about the midpoint is Chiron. And, Chiron's already feeling Mars moving up. So it's the wound of self. And, I look at Chiron as the I am. But it's like the I am that needs a boost, needs a shot of confidence. And I want to just read what Hermes said about Sirius. So Sirius was very important in ancient Egypt. They used, when Sirius started rising, then they knew that the Nile would flood, and they monitored, like they went through the cycles of Sirius, ruled the Nile. So that was very important to them. It's also really close to the earth. It's the brightest star in the sky. It has like a yellow hue to it. And Hermes said of it, it grants the favor of the spirits of the air and the peoples of the earth, and brings peace and concord between kings and other potentates, and between husbands and wives. So what Metatron said was, it suits more now to say between soulmates. And, when we're talking about the spirits of the air, that's, of course, the angels and the star beings. And concord is a harmonious agreement. So between kings or leaders and peoples. So that is nice, right? And then, we're going to talk about Mars being in, and I'm not sure now if I mentioned in this video, maybe I shouldn't have stopped that last video. I don't know I should have looked at what Mercury was doing exactly today. I just had so much happening today that it's the end of it's 9:00. And so, I had everything planned I was going to say, and now I'm kind of like, it's just Mercury. What can you do? But, in addition to, that Mars trine Pandora, trine America, and the fact that the sun of the United States is going to, be involved in this full moon eclipse, that it's at the same degree, and the things that have gone on when these eclipses have have been, and you can feel like he's saying that it would be wise of us to release the sense of foreboding. Because he said, as you can see, that when the asteroid Sphinx and Vesta is involved, and the energies or the link of our higher consciousness, the communication of the communicator, the communicating energy, Metatron, the expression of God is all involved. That, these are things that we have been like long-standing agreements, he's saying. And he's saying that it's also a time that long-standing agreements between soulmates come to a close. As Mars came in to Aries, he was sextile Saturn, which is like the old, and Mars, is on a vision quest. He rules vision, and he's that pioneering spirit. And so that signaled a choice to leave something behind, something to allow something to fall away. is what the way he said it, to allow something to fall away. And it's always, of course, for the good of all that is. Like whenever I ask anything, I always say whatever is most beneficial for all that is, because you're included in all that is. So a lot of times, and I speak to clients about this a lot, we can have our kids' stuff in our space, our loved ones, our ancestors, all our past life stuff in our space. But when we're carrying the responsibility around, it's not like it's pulling us down. It's pulling us down. We want to feel supported at the root by the ancestors and allow ourselves to be nurtured and fed, and allow the love of the earth and Mother Gaia and everyone who went before us to come up through the earth and to feel supported as if we're held. When we're carrying all kinds of, responsibilities to these people, which is just part of the illusion, because you're never responsible for anyone outside of you, nor can you take on anything else for anyone else. That's just, it's not that we go, it's not like the ego, like, ooh, the ego, but it's just an ego story that as if we could, we can't do those things for other people. But then it's pulling us down. It doesn't serve the good of all that is. It's just something that we're doing in a way of martyring ourselves. And it isn't conscious, I can't stand when I hear like, oh, you're a martyr. I'm like, oh, but when I test using kinesiology, sure enough, I am, and that's just part of that whole thing too. And we need to really be careful with that, with everything going on with Neptune too. He's come into the third decan of Pisces, his domicile. So there can be just a lot of martyr and energy in the air. Plus, even if we don't know consciously that someone that we love is about to go through something, face something, that's something that we know. We may not be able to give voice to it, he's saying, but it's the feeling. And he's saying that if you're wondering if you do have things that are pulling you down, weighting you down, that, you can just say, I release everything that for the good of all that is. I release any and everything I'm holding that is my idea of help that is actually not beneficial for myself or for all that is. And that they can just clean that away. Michael can just cut those cords, and then the soul fragments come back to you. And I also noticed that Archangel Michael's asteroid Saint Michael is on the planet Uranus and during this eclipse as well. So that's interesting too. So yes, change is afoot is what Michael just said. Change is afoot. So let's talk about Vision Quest, Mars in Aries. So the reason that I have the glyph, which is hard to do this with a camera, but the glyph of Mars on my wrist is because I have Mars at his degree of exaltation, which is the 28th degree of Capricorn. The symbolism for that degree is the god Atlas, the figure that has like the globe. So I'm not talking about myself now. This is about Mars. It's the globe on his back. And he has like conquered the world. He's kind of carrying it on his shoulders, but he has all of the wisdom and the knowledge of the cosmos. It's the mastery. Mars is the self. Mars is the baby. One of my astrology teachers said that it's the energy that pushes us through the pelvis to come into the world. It's also, as the traditional ruler of Scorpio, the energy that makes the seed burst and the new life comes from. And, fire, when it's left unguarded, he's saying, or unchecked, it is very destructive. But of course, out of those ashes, like when there is a forest fire and everything is wiped out, then sure enough, fresh growth begins to come up through. Fire creates. Fire destroys, but fire creates. Mars is the gusto, the ambition, the strategy. It's our focus. Mars as the ancient ruler of Scorpio again. It's the eyes, the eagle eyes. It's able to see from the higher perspective and figure out like, okay, well, how could I work that? And how could I do that? And when he's spending this much time in his own sign, then it's about the perfecting of the self. Which I don't like that term so much. And that isn't, what he isn't meaning like you aren't perfect. What he means is to bring the focus inward. And retrograde planets, remember when the world went under quarantine, all the planets were moving forward. When all of the planets, or 7 of them, or 6 now, are retrograde, it's about drawing us in, drawing our focus inward. And, Mars has that pioneering spirit. Mars wants something new, something different. Mars actually loves challenge. And the reason that he excels in Capricorn is because that child, that Mars can also be in Mars in Aries energy. And everybody has a Mars really, but it can be that meh. I don't want, where we're whiny because we don't like it. We don't like the way that's going on. It can be internal, but it's still there. Everybody's got that a little bit. So, but Mars in Capricorn has graduated. He has mastered it all. He's figured it all out. And so, that's the Emperor energy when we've conquered fear, doubt, not mistrust of ourselves, all of the lower vibrations of Mars. But yeah, it's holding a vision and coming up with a strategy and a plan. Now, I was going to also mention that when we've got this much fire going on, let's talk about, when we've got all of this fire going on and it isn't being directed somewhere, which really, I don't like it either. But really some sort of exercise program, like where, I'm not going to say we're not going to make it, but it would be, yes, he's saying it will be much easier climbing that mountain, like the image that he had me share in the post that I made on the community tab was the stairs and the sunshine at the top. But it's much easier to put one foot in front of the other. He's saying after the muscles have been stretched, they're flexible. This isn't a time to jump into something. If you haven't seen Billy Blanks for a long time, maybe don't even put your shoes on. Maybe just kind of like move through the routine and don't do the full kick up. Because Mars rules muscles too. And so we need to be careful with that. And also we can kind of be demanding a lot of ourselves, like setting a goal that's like, we know, like, okay, well, that's probably not very practical. But, if there's like ways that you could set practical goals, like he's saying, making the bed every morning. And then, so if you say to yourself like, okay, tomorrow morning, that's the example he's giving because he's trying to say like not asking the world of yourself right now. Okay, and then you make the bed in the morning and then you're like, wow, I made my bed. I've achieved my goal. Because a lot of us, didn't have that. Like I wasn't able to work because my daughter was not healthy enough. But, and we need a sense of being productive and accomplishing something. And so if you can set like reasonable goals for yourself right now, that will really help to boost confidence. When all of these things are retrograded, Mercury is in Cancer, there's so much happening internally that we can begin to feel like waterlogged, like the wool, like the sorrow. We can start to like come down inside because what's going on outside is not going to be like a boost right now. So really like tending to, he's calling it the inner garden. And of course, Venus is the garden, Taurus. And, really taking time with ourselves. He's talking about focusing on breathing. He's saying that if an exercise regimen is too much for you, then focus on breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. She's been doing that with me all week. Like driving in the car. or anything that you're doing where you're just, waiting for something. If you can take 90 seconds, like 5 times a day, to just take a deep breath in and deep breath out. Because otherwise we get so carried away in our thoughts, and the things that are going on in the ethers, just in the environment right now, can start to work their way in to what's going on inside. So I just want to talk about some of these dates. So if you want to write these down. So Mars will square Saturn August 5th, October 16th, and December 12th. And Mars will square Pluto August 12th, October 7th, and December 20th. In other words, it's boom, 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 boom. Those are all pretty close together. Like there's a week between those squares. And I don't see that that's really a separating energy. That's sort of like together that's happening. I needed to bring my water in. I actually went out to get my water and I forgot it. Okay, so the last week of July, as when Mars is going to square Jupiter, and Jupiter, in relation to anything, it magnifies whatever that planet is and whatever that planet is doing. It makes it strengthens it. It makes it more obvious. It like blows it up. And so, as Mars, and they're in that square, that tension, that it's the most powerful aspect that there is, but there's something tense and dynamic in that energy, that the Mars will be with Black Moon Lilith as he comes into the square with Jupiter. Then Mars will, as he then moves away from Jupiter or Black Moon Lilith, he will square Saturn. Okay, so that's more of a restrictive energy, and that's the August 5th. Then Saturn will spend, remember we talked about the 25th degree of Capricorn, and I believe it was the Carsophagus. It relates to transformation. Saturn is going to sit at that degree all of September, and like the last not even week of October is when he's going to move. So that's a very serious energy as well. And then in October, Pluto is going to sit at that 25th. No, Pluto is going to sit where he met Saturn, at the exact same degree where he met Saturn. 22, 23 of Capricorn. He's going to sit there all of October through half of November. Mars begins his retrograde on Halloween, and then he will come back again and work his way back and square those planets again. So whenever Mars is in fire and he's squaring all of these big boys in Capricorn, there's a lot of potential for Earth events. A lot of potential for Earth events in that energy. Of course, also fires. When Mars is in fire anyway, that potential is there. But now he's there for 6 months. So it's almost like he's getting both hemispheres. Both summers. And of course, we look at that where they came together, where they met, as like the pandemic degree. And so Mars rules pandemics. He rules plagues. He rules pandemics. And so when he's squaring the point that, the initiation began, then that is when a lot of astrologers believe that we will see a second wave. Now, when Mars was going through Pisces, I thought surely the mutation will start then. And maybe it did. Maybe we just don't know yet. I mean, he just left Pisces a couple days ago. But, that's something of the mysterious. I want to say that whole thing with herd immunity, and the fact that they believe like it's 10 or what is it, like 4 to 24 times the count. The official count is probably who is actually infected, because there's so many people that are asymptomatic, which is why we wear a mask, because the person next to us might not be so lucky and they might have terrible symptoms. But basically August through December is when we'll see like things begin to pick up again. Now, could this be that there's a vaccine found and that spreads? It's possible. It's possible. But, I mean, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I would be, surely there's going to be an Earth event. That's what I would think. Mars is aggression, anger, war, battle, conflict. Mars is ambition, focus, gain, willpower. This is like a great time, fire and ruling the muscles. If this is a time that you start to walk every day or, stretch every day, that will stick. This is a 6 month transit. So anything that we focus on doing with the physical body, that will stick. That will be a great way to, we don't really break habits by just doing away with the habit. It's setting a new pattern, and this will really help to set a new pattern, this energy. And then the old things just sort of we don't really care. We're not drawn to them like we were before. But Mars, of course, holds the vision, the higher vision, and the higher vision for what comes next for humanity. And, that pioneering spirit. This is a great time. Like if you've been thinking about a career move, or, you just want to kind of like do your investigating on what could it be if you like looked at the potential of like, say, what you would earn maybe, or if there are any openings in that field. This is a great time to explore. Mars in Aries is the explorer. Wants to discover new things. And in the beginning of his journey, it's obviously because of everything else going on in the astrology, it's about the journey within. And he wanted me to read. This is great for a lot of us are searching among the branches for what is in the roots, what is already inside of us. I've noticed, I'm really sensitive, and I've noticed lately that when I wake up, when I open my eyes, it's just a habit. And I think that probably we all do it and don't recognize that we immediately start to go like, okay, and we kind of are taking the temperature of what's around us, or thinking about. And one day when they woke me up, my higher self had me go right inside, and it was awesome. It was just so much more peaceful. So if you can get into that habit of when you wake up immediately going within and spending like 10 minutes just doing deep breathing, and if you're one of those people that jumps up and needs to do something right away, then yeah, go exercise right away. That's the best way to keep the mind quiet for all of this as well. So I'm going to just read the cards that I pulled. I wasn't going to, but I wasn't even going to pull cards. And then he was like, yeah, I think because of what's going on with Mercury today, because I sat down and I was like, oh, wait, what was I talking about? So, okay. Oh, and I did my new shuffling. I did my new shuffling method. I'm just like a real reader now. I can shuffle cards. Okay, fire. Fire consumes anything that it touches. The flames remind us of the impermanent nature of reality and how situations can quickly transform into beauty or chaos. Fire is passion, and its dancing flames invite us to reach to the sky. Warmth and light are heavenly, yet too much heat can scorch us. To fully step into the energy of fire is to be utterly transformed, like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And the rattle. The rattle is the spirit caller, carrying the shaman's prayer to the 4 directions. The body of the rattle is like the earth spinning on its axis. With the aid of the rattle, the medicine woman instills a desired destiny into her future, closing with the prayer, "Great Spirit, may your will be done." The rattle guides us to pray for all the earth, not just for our personal needs. When we offer our prayer for the highest good of all, everything we need is provided for us. And the ancient ones. The ancient ones are the shamans of old who defeated death and escaped from the tyranny of time. The ancient ones once walked the earth like us, in flesh and bone. Now they reside in infinity and can counsel us after we say yes to our calling. They are available to help us attain our full realization. And the last card, Vision Quest. In the Vision Quest, you face your fear, embrace your mortality, and then meet face to face with Spirit. When we feel stagnant, a Vision Quest brings our lives into perspective. We realize our flaws, our potential, and the opportunities life is now offering us. We remain on a Vision Quest until we find the key to open a new door or write a new chapter in our lives. It's almost like what he was showing me when I was saying that was a turntable and the record like scratching and then like taking the needle up and putting a whole new, it's sort of like not scratching out the past, but it's like a fresh start. This is like a fresh start for everyone. And really like the fresh start for what you think of yourself and what it is that you could accomplish. You know, they're there to help us, to guide us, to find what it is that we would most like to do, what we would find most fulfilling. I really hope that I said everything I was going to, because I had started the video and then stopped it. I know that I mentioned in the beginning of the first one that all of the energy happening right now, you know, with Jupiter, where he is in Capricorn, not happy, you know, and meeting with Pluto, judgment is thick out there. And in case you haven't noticed, and, you know, with what's happening with Mercury and Venus, really that I love myself and I recognize myself in everyone is really important right now. We all fall short, you know, in some way, and really being cognizant, being compassionate with yourself. You know, anytime that we're judging everybody else, all of those daggers are coming right back into our energy. Just like when Jesus said, "Judge not, lest you be judged." That's what he meant. He meant like you're sending a judgment out, but it's coming right at you. And so that's one way that our things can come into our energy field, is because we've got so many holes in our aura, because we're judging this, judging that, judging this behavior, this person, you know, posting about this, and then it's just, you know, as much as you can allow that kind of stuff to let go. And yeah, remembering that we've all been there, done that. You know, when there are things that people do that bother us, then and we haven't had that experience in this timeline, then most likely you have like that ancient lurking judgment against yourself because you were participated in it in one time or another. Otherwise, it doesn't bother us. You know, otherwise we're sort of just like, "Okay, Sarah, Sarah." It's only when we're triggered that we know that something is up. So, okay, everybody. I hope this went well. I really have no idea. Just one of those days. But love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Be compassionate with yourselves. Be patient with yourself. Mars in Aries wants to go a million miles in every direction at once. And and we can be really critical of ourselves right now. So yeah, be patient with yourself. Patience is something that we're all going to have to reach for. So, all right, guys, take care. Bye.